Thank you all so much for having me, and a big thank you to Caroma once again. I think we did this 2 years ago. Pre-COVID, but it looked very different. The plants were not thriving as much as they are now. They just absolutely have taken over. Every time I come back here, they just seem to be up one different pole or something like that. But no, thank you all so much for coming today. So I'm doing a presentation at 10:30, which is all about plastic-free living. But today I just wanted to kind of open up with a little bit of a background on me, on why I'm here and why and what I'm doing. So Banish has been running now for about 3.5 years. I started it actually off the back of a New Year's resolution that actually worked. I know it's pretty crazy and it's not something that you hear of every day, but one of my list of kind of 10 to 15 New Year's resolutions was to do better when it came to the planet. I didn't really know what that meant in terms of kind of, was it plastic-free living or was it going vegan or whatever it was, but I just knew that I wanted to do something. And I was working at the time as a journalist, and one of my assignments for my next articles was to live like Mark Wahlberg. And I don't know how many people here know, but Marky Mark wakes up at 4 a.m. every single morning. He prays for about 2 hours, he meditates for another hour, he works out for about an hour and a half, and I don't have the physical stamina to work out for an hour and a half. I'm not a very religious person, and when it comes to meditation, I think 1 minute is about my go-to. So I was waking up at 4 a.m. going, well, what am I meant to do? There was nothing to do at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, well, I'll go online shopping. I'll get back into my New Year's resolution and I will start reducing my waste. So on top of my list, it was summer, I was drinking a lot of smoothies and I was having a lot of plastic straws. So I went, okay, what is the most sustainable straw? It sounds like a pretty simple question, but 3 hours later, I was still going through all of the research and trying to work out just what a sustainable straw looked like. Because when you look at things like, you've got stainless steel straws, which are great, but they're really energy intensive to make. You've got bamboo straws, but where are they being sourced from? Are they coming from sustainable sources, or are they just going through forests and chopping down bamboo? There's silicone straws, but then how do you dispose of silicone at the end of the life? There was all of these different questions, and I went, hang on, why is it so difficult? Why is it so hard for people to make a simple, sustainable swap? Eventually, I decided that a stainless steel straw was going to be the best option for me. So I ordered online from what I thought was a sustainable website. And then 2 days later, it came via express shipping in a plastic post satchel, and each and every stainless steel straw was individually wrapped in plastic. And I just went, far out. I've been waking up at 4 a.m. I've been doing all of this research. I thought I was using my purchasing power to do the right thing. And I just felt really disheartened. I was pissed off, to be honest, with the whole situation. And I went, we need people to live more sustainably. There's no denying it. But in order for people to make a change, it needs to be so easy that there's no reason for them not to make that change. They need to type into Google, what is the most sustainable straw? It pops up and it says, look, if you don't have kids, maybe a stainless steel straw is the best option for you. Here is a great Australian small business that is selling this straw, and you can purchase with that, with someone who's reliable, with that brand trust. And I thought, why is nobody doing this? Why is there nobody out there doing this? And also, on the other hand, when I was finding these sustainable suppliers who were legitimately doing the right thing, who were cruelty-free, who were hand knitting their own dishcloths in their living rooms with organic cotton thread, they had no way of marketing themselves out there to a mass audience. When you buy something like a kitchen dishcloth, for example, theoretically you should have that for the next 3 to 4 years. So there's no need for you to have that brand trust, that kind of warm and fuzzy feeling. You don't want to follow them on Instagram because theoretically you've got that, so you don't really need to hear anything from them again. But what I wanted to do was kind of put the power of all of these small businesses together, so you could come and get that hand-knitted dishcloth, and you might purchase some beeswax wraps as well, or you might remember your experience from Banish and go, great, there's a great collective of small Australian business owners on there that are doing the right thing. So that's kind of why the e-commerce and the education platform works with Banish. And then in November last year, we launched the BRAD program, which is the Banish Recycling and Disposal program, which helps people keep their hard-to-recycle items from going to the wrong pit. Get it? Brad Pitt. Anyway, so that was why we created the Brad program. In November, we had 7 people recycle with us. I was pretty excited. We recycle everything from coffee capsules to blister packs to beauty products, everything that can't go into your recycling bin. We take it and then we recycle it with Australian recycling facilities. So we had 7 people recycle in November, and I was going, great, everyone's being really positive. We've got a real, the community is really, really excited. And then yesterday when I collected the parcels, we had 60 in one day. So it has grown quite significantly in 5 months. We've hit 1.3 tonnes of waste that we've now recycled through the program, and it is growing bigger and better than ever. But I think it just shows, because the way that the program works is that people pay to send us their recycling. We then pay to have it recycled, and in exchange they get a $15 voucher to spend in our store. But I think it shows that there is this appetite for people, there is this push. People are willing to pay to have their hard-to-recycle items recycled. I think it's a really positive step. It's something that I honestly didn't think this many people would want to pay for something like this service, but it just shows that people really are striving for change. People as consumers are making a difference. They are changing the way that they behave, the way that they learn, the way that they live. They're collecting on behalf of their offices. They're kind of getting together as a community group and they're sorting through their rubbish. And I've got people like Mitchell who have volunteered their time on a Saturday morning to help sort through everybody's rubbish. It's just absolutely amazing. And I think it shows that we are changing, and as individuals and as consumers, we have so much power, because we can look at large organisations, we can look at governments, we can look at people who probably aren't moving as quickly on recycling or other sustainability initiatives, but as individuals we can really make a big difference, and we are doing that. So I think my biggest takeaway from all of this is that I'm one person and you are one person, but together we can really make a big difference. So if we all strive and push together, and even if you're doing those little things like remembering your reusable water bottle, or you're starting a compost bin, or you just talk to somebody else about how to live more sustainably, that is making a big difference. You don't have to be completely plastic free. You don't have to be vegan. You don't have to walk around with a glass jar filled with your rubbish for the past 3 years. That's not something that I'm able to do, and I'm technically meant to be a sustainability expert, but I consume plastic every day. But it's just something that we're working on and we're getting better at. And I think that is my biggest message for you, is don't be disheartened. It's not easy. We're trying to make it easier, but it is a hard journey, but we can all push together and we can all make a big difference. So yeah, that will be I'll be covering more of that in my talk about how to plastic-free living at 10:30. But if you've got any questions now, please let me know. There's some amazing people here today talking about different sustainability initiatives. We can just look around this space and see how a bathroom company is doing amazing things when it comes to sustainability. So I think it's not only in your own personal life, it's in your work life, it's everything. We can really shift that lifestyle. Any questions? No? Gosh, I covered everything in one go. Perfect. Yes?
Last time when you were here, you spoke about worm farming. How's that going?
Yes, so the question was about worm farming. For everybody who couldn't hear, I'm doing a talk tomorrow on compost bins and worm farming at 10:30. But the main thing for me was when I first started living sustainably. When we were kids, we had a compost bin. Moving to inner city Sydney, I just thought having a compost bin wasn't really an option for me, living in a townhouse with a garden bed, not any kind of green space whatsoever. But I was fortunate enough to come across the app or the program called YWaste. I'd really recommend it to everybody. And what it is it is a kind of a map, an interactive map of everybody in Australia and New Zealand who has a compost bin. So you log and you register your compost bin on the app, and then you can actually go and connect with your neighbours who have compost bins and drop off your waste to them. It absolutely blew my mind when I found out about it. So I had a couple of compost husbands in the local area who I'd visit every now and again. Their wives were fully aware that I was coming over, but it is just a way kind of coming together, taking 10 steps backwards. It's something that we always used to do. We used to kind of have community gardens. We used to compost all the time, but it's something that we're not doing as much anymore. And by composting in particular, that's one way to literally halve your household waste, is by starting a compost bin. It's by far one of the easiest things that you can do. But again, now that I moved to a house, I then had a compost bin and a worm farm, so I became the host and I had frequent visitors coming to me. So I think it just kind of shifts and rotates and you kind of move and change. But we're also seeing a lot of councils now bringing out FOGO bins. So what FOGO bins are is they're food organics and garden organics bins. So Randwick City Council have brought them out. A City of Sydney are doing a trial at the moment. So what that is, and the Inner West Council are also doing a trial. So what that is they will provide you with a little kitchen compost bin or whatever, and then you fill that up with waste, and then you put it out when you would put your normal general waste bins out. They're actually in Randwick reducing the number of times that you can put out your landfill bins. So you can now only put your landfill bins out every second week, in a bid to encourage people to really start composting. And then all of this organic matter is then going to industrial facilities to be recycled. So that's a really positive step as well. Yeah. Yes?
For someone like me who's probably out where you were 3 years ago, where's the best place to start from your experience?
Yeah. It's a good question. I get asked it a lot. I think the best place to start would be when you finish something that you've already got at home up. So I don't think that the best thing is to go out there and go, you know what, my project for this weekend is a plastic-free bathroom, and to go through your bathroom and clear it all out. I think the best thing is to say, maybe when you finish with a shampoo, go, okay, now I've finished with this plastic bottle of shampoo, now it's time to swap to a shampoo bar or something like that. I think that would be my first piece of advice. And then reusables is another really big one that I would work on. It's coffee cups, water bottles, everything like that. It's getting into that routine is a really great place to start, because it's something that you use every day, often mindlessly, because it's just part of your routine, going to the coffee shop, having water, buying a water bottle, whatever. So I think that's also a really good place to start as well. Yes?
What about banish.com.au?
Are you sponsored by Banish? So banish.com.au is the education platform and online store. So that is where you can purchase everything. We've got a pop-up stall today and tomorrow, and we've got the recycling drop-off. It's our first drop-off point that we're trialling out. So yeah, that's all there. So come chat to us, check us out online. There's plenty of information on there. On Instagram every week we play bingo on Wednesdays, which is great, recycling bingo. So you can come along and have a bit of fun and ask lots of questions about sustainability and living greener.
What's your workshop later today?
The workshop later today at 10:30 is Steps to a Plastic-Free Home. So it's going to go through each room of the home and give practical tools and steps on how to make a change. So it could be everything from the laundry to your bathroom to everything, and breaking down any of those myths.
Do you want to go through some of those steps now?
Yeah, sure. Everyone wanted to go through that? Start anywhere or anywhere? I think probably for me, an area of the home that doesn't get spoken about enough, which is something that we should be talking about, is actually the laundry. So in our laundry is where we often use the most amount of energy. We use 30 to 40% of our household's energy in our laundry alone. So it's something that we can really make some drastic changes in. So first of all, it would be using a dryer less, and it would be hanging out your clothes to dry. But when it actually comes to your wash cycle, there's a lot of things that you can actually do. So when we do a spin cycle, pieces of microplastics from our clothing actually break off and enter our waterways. So it's something that we don't really think about because you can't see microplastics. They're smaller than 5 millimetres in size. But the average Australian these days is eating 5 grams of plastic per week. So the equivalent of a credit card of plastic we ingest every week, which is things like tap water, seafood, beer, everything like that we're actually ingesting. So these microplastics are entering our waterways from things like washing our clothes, from pieces of ocean debris breaking down and then fish eating them and then us eating them. But when it comes to our laundry, how to reduce this microplastic breakage is to wash on really full loads so that we're not getting a lot of banging happening in that spin cycle. It's to reduce the spin cycle. So again, we're reducing that amount of breakage. It's to reduce the temperature of the water that we're using so that it's not going to kind of, again, break off those materials. And it's also washing. I'm not going to tell people never to wash their clothes again, but it's to wash clothes when they need to be washed, not for the sake of it. Did you just look at your partner going, that was you? You just got sprung. But yeah, so it's washing clothes when they need to. For example, like jeans don't need to be washed that often. It's stuff like that. So that's a really great way that we can be doing that. And then you'd throw in the addition of some plastic-free products. So things like swapping to stainless steel pegs, which won't break. They're marine-grade stainless steel, so they won't rust, instead of those plastic pegs that you kind of use them and they snap off and break in your finger, or things like natural laundry detergents. So we've got a ground coconut powder, or soap berries or soap nuts. So these are actually come from Nepal, and what they are is they're from a tree, which I cannot pronounce the name of, but they're these dried up little soap nuts, and you put 5 of them in a drawstring bag into your wash, and what happens is when they touch water, they release a natural soapinin, which cleans your clothes. So it's completely natural, and once you're finished with them, you can just throw them into your garden or your compost bin. So there's so many different amazing alternatives out there, because when it comes to kind of cleaning products and everything like that, if you think about it, whatever you're putting down the drain, whatever you're putting into your washing machine, it is going to end up in our oceans. So that's something that we can really make a drastic change in by stepping away from those chemical cleaners, and they're all still really effective as well. The podcast.
We're all inspired by something. So who is your inspiration, firstly? And maybe you can tell us a little bit about the podcast and what you've learned yourself and what you can draw from other people.
Yeah. No question is a silly question.
What inspires you, firstly?
Ooh. I think the people that inspire me isn't actually anybody famous. It's just the normal, everyday people who are making big changes and who are making a difference. It's the people who are making a community garden in their local area. It's the people who have started a green initiative at their office. I think that's what really inspires me, because it is about that grassroots change, and seeing individuals make a difference really gets me excited and really gets me going. And then in terms of the podcast, so I did have Dr. Steve Cummings, who is the head of innovation at Caroma. So Steve is actually the founder of, or the inventor of, the dual flush cistern. So what that is the 2 tops on the top of your toilet. So the half flush and the full flush. You've probably at Caroma going, this terminology is just so out of whack. But pretty much what happens is when you use the half flush, obviously you're not using as much water as the full flush. So Steve was one of the people who created this, and then it has now gone completely overseas and it's global, which is so amazing, because for me, this happened a little bit before my time. I didn't understand. I just grew up having 2 buttons on my toilet, and I just thought that was normal. So for the fact that somebody in Australia created that, and then each and every day, I think he was saying in the podcast that each and every day the Australians using that save the amount of water in the Sydney harbour. It's just from using a half flush, which is just crazy that we were just flushing everything around beforehand. So yeah, the podcast has been going for 2 years now. We're in our 2nd season. It's 32 episodes. We just sent our last episode live on Thursday. So that had Jess Miller, who is the former deputy Mayor of the City of Sydney. So she was talking all about how the City of Sydney is becoming more green and livable and breathable, but it's talking about things like reducing the number of car spots available and encouraging bike paths, and what the City of Sydney is doing towards getting to that. They've also just hit their they've said that they're going to reach carbon neutrality by 2030 instead of 2025. So they're really accelerating their growth in terms of that. So the podcast kind of covers everybody from people like Steve to other amazing individuals who are making changes, but then also we've got some different kind of charity organisations. So like Rob from Too Good Co, which is a charity or a social enterprise who helps women in who've just gone into different domestic violence centres and how they can empower them with work and different organisations like that. So it's an amazing one to check out. I feel like for me, the thing as well that I get a lot of questions about as well is, do you feel disheartened? Do you feel overwhelmed being in this industry? And I think for me, it's the complete opposite. I feel empowered and inspired every single day, because once you start doing the research and you start getting involved in all of this, there is so many amazing people in this space. There is so much innovation. There is so much happening that I think it's really, really exciting and inspiring. So be inspired, be excited, get out there and just, have a go, really.
Okay, so Lotte hasn't asked me to do this, but I'm going to speak to the product range and why. Is that okay? So maybe you can explain
Sure.
the products that you sell and
Thanks, Mum.
why and how they help our environment.
Great. Thank you. So Mum today used my Shampoo Bar for the first time at home. So she's looking great today. Any compliments on her hair would be much appreciated. She also got a haircut last week, so it's looking particularly good. So a Shampoo Bar, for example, is a really great sustainable switch. One Shampoo Bar is the equivalent to 6 bottles of shampoo and conditioner. So all you need to do is wet it, rub it either in between your hands and it becomes nice and soapy, or you can put it straight on your head and then you're good to go. They are shampoo and conditioner in one, so you don't need to worry about kind of doing a conditioning as well. I do kind of like a hair treatment once a month with just coconut oil on the ends. But that is one thing. Thank you. We have got, I'm just going to go through probably the bathroom first. So another thing is that every single, I really don't want to scare you or dishearten you, but every single toothbrush, plastic toothbrush or plastic razor that you and I have ever used still exists somewhere on this planet, whether it's in our oceans, it's in our soil, it's on our beaches. So making the switch to something that will break down or that we can reuse over and over again is a really, really great option. So something like a bamboo toothbrush, for example, where you can actually compost the stick and then you've got the bristles. Thank you. The bristles are actually made, these ones are made from nylon. They're not completely biodegradable or they're not compostable, because if you think about it, you're putting something in your mouth, you're wetting it every day, that's going to start that composting or that breaking down. So we can't do that with the bristles just yet. There are people who are working on a completely 100% compostable toothbrush, but it hasn't happened right just now. So that is something when it comes to your teeth and cleaning your teeth. A reusable razor, something that we didn't bring today, a safety razor, has been around for kind of eons and eons of time, but it is an all-metal razor. It's something that people, you'd see them in barbershops using the straight edge razors. A metal razor just looks like your normal everyday plastic razor, but you use it over and over again and you just replace the blades. So the blades cost, I think it's about 12 cents each, and you probably use one blade every kind of 5 to 6 weeks. So it's a really cost-efficient way, and then you've got that to use over and over again. On the kind of funny, nice stories, I actually had a friend, somebody on Instagram, message me and say, you'll never believe it, but my grandma passed away, and I was going, thank you so much for, I'm sorry to hear that. Anyway, and she said what was hilarious though was that her grandma actually left her safety razor in her will. And now she's using her safety razor on and on. So it just shows that they are built to last and that they will keep on going for years and years. So that is another hilarious story. But the thing with a lot of these products as well is they're not really that innovative. They're not that new. There are some ones that are really cool and great and doing amazing things, but it's really about going back to basics. It's about using a bar of soap again. It's about using a loofah sponge, which is something, again, that has been here forever and ever. So it's not about, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just kind of trying to get back to using less and using products that kind of can do 5 or 6 different uses, or that don't need to be replaced every couple of weeks or something like that. So that's really what I would talk about from the bathroom perspective. When it comes to the kitchen, I feel like the kitchen and the bathroom are probably the hardest places in your home to reduce your waste. It's really hard to be prescriptive with people and say, like, this is exactly what you should do, because everybody has a completely different routine. If you don't cook that much at home, then there's no point you buying reusable baking mats and things like that, because you're probably not a baker. You probably don't do roasts or anything like that. So that's why it's all about your own journey. It's not about comparing yourself to one another. It's about taking those small steps, and when you finish something, it's about then making the sustainable swap to something else. So we do have the reusable baking mats today, so they're made from silicone. One of the tricky things about baking paper is the fact that it is not able to be recycled. So it's got a very misleading name, but because of that waxy coating that makes it non-stick, it can't go into your recycling bin, which is why swapping to something like a reusable baking mat is a really great and easy way to reduce that waste. And you can either put them in the dishwasher, you can put them in the oven, or you can just give them a clean and then you can just use them over and over again. The same again comes to using things like these silicone food pouches rather than single-use snap-lock bags. So it's again something that you can use over and over again. You're going to freeze them, they're completely leak-proof, everything like that. So they're another great one. And then what else have we got in my little treasure trove here? We have got the bamboo dish brushes. So again, plastic dish brushes, where it's going to be the same process as when you are washing your clothes. If you're using a plastic dish brush, you've got tiny pieces of baby plastic particles which are going down your drains and into our waterways. It's not only the fact that you can't dispose of this sustainably at the end of it, but it is the fact that you've got those particles breaking off. So making the switch to something that is bamboo is going to be a lot better for the environment in the long run as well. And then to go with the dish brushes, we've got a dishwashing block. And so what that is instead of using a squidgy kind of plastic bottle, it's a bar of soap that you actually just rub like this, and it smells beautiful, it gets nice and foamy, and then you can wash all of your dishes like that. Again, it's another great way to reduce your waste. And then if you do have a dishwasher, I'd be really careful at the supermarket when you're purchasing products, because you need to make sure that you're not getting those little tablets that are wrapped individually in plastic, because obviously you've got single-use plastic after another. There's just plastic everywhere in those boxes, so I'd be trying to steer clear of those, because it is not an amazing option there. And then we've got as well, these are the stainless steel pegs that I was talking about before in the laundry routine. They're marine grade stainless steel, so they're not going to rust or anything bad's going to happen to them. And then just one last thing that I kind of would like to talk to you about is your waste disposal systems at home. Super sexy, super cool, but it is so cool. So what we've got is what I would recommend you have is you have your general waste bin. If you've got a family, try and make this the smallest bin, because it encourages people to put everything into different containers in different areas. You've got your recycling. Depending on your area, if you're in different areas, you might have a separate paper and a separate kind of plastics, aluminium and glass. You've got your recycling bin. Then you've got your soft plastics. So does anybody know what soft plastics is? Does anybody currently soft plastic recycle? Thank you. So what soft plastic recycling is soft plastics are any of those kind of scrunchable plastics. So think of things like bubble wrap, chip packets, I'm trying to think, lolly wrappers, confectionery, that kind of stuff. Something that when you scrunch it, it doesn't pop back up into its shape. So it's plastic post satchels, things like that. All of those soft and squishy plastics, when you've got your spinach bags, sorry, more things are just popping to me as I think about what's in my fridge. Spinach bags, you can actually take all of those soft plastics back to Coles and Woolworths and they will recycle them through a program called Red Cycle. So it's a really easy, seamless program. So just collect all of these soft plastics in a bigger plastic bag, take them back when you go and do your grocery shopping, and you're reducing those soft plastics. So that would be my third stream. My fourth stream would be a compost bin, of course. If you've got one, they're amazing. We have got this compost kitchen caddy because we're all about making sustainability accessible and beautiful. So that is that one there. I would have that, and then I would have my Brad recycling box, of course. So that can then have everything else like your beauty products, blister packs, coffee capsules, everything like that. On our website, you can see the full list of all of the different items that we accept. But that would be how I would structure my under the sink different streams, and then you'll start to see as well, you'll be able to look at what actually ends up in that general waste bin every week. You'll start noticing the same things over and over again, and that would be my hit list then of things to start reducing. When it came to my consumption, I'd be going, okay, there seems to be a lot of kind of, I don't know, squishy yogurt pouches in here. How can I reduce that waste? What can I do better? And then I would go from that. So yeah, that's how I would structure my waste disposal system at home. So yeah, any questions? Yes?
Where we live, the compost bin, we have ant problem when we use it.
An air problem. Ants. An ant problem.
It's on rural farming and it doesn't matter what we do.
Really? Is it borax and honey? No, what was it?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter. They'll say hi in the kitchen by the thousands.
Oh gosh, I would probably pop it in the freezer then, is what I would do, is I'd pop it into a Tupperware container in the freezer, because then you're going to reduce any chance of them getting in there. But when if that's into your compost bin, but when it comes to actually getting rid of ants, when they're here, there and everywhere, honestly, I don't really know. I think I've heard about peppermint essential oil being a deterrent, but I'm not sure how effective that is in the long run. Yeah, so this one, for example, has the reason why there is a filter at the top of it, so that filter keeps all of the bad smells out. It's a charcoal filter, so that it still lets everything breathe a little bit, but I'm not sure, I haven't tested it. I haven't put it in an ant's nest and seen if the ants can get inside, but I think they probably could. If there's a will, there's a way with ants, I find. Yes? Oh, that's true.
So the problem is they don't touch the bucket, they're all around.
Just like a little, chorus waiting.
No, but it invites them.
Oh, but give it enough time. There'll be enough floaty things in the water and
create a
they'll fall
bridge.
over and they'll get to
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so
They sacrifice themselves.
Gosh, they're
persistent, seriously. But it's only when it's warmer. Like it's not so much in winter, but
yeah.
spring, summer.
Wow. That's ridiculous. My other eco kind of hack is with flies, cutting open a lemon and putting cloves in it, and then you put that into your kitchen, just like in the area, and yeah, it'll deter all of the flies as well. So
can you do the same in that? Put water and put the scraps into water?
if you wanted to,
Because it's starting to break.
yeah.
And it would also stop, reduce the amount of...
Exactly, yeah, you could do that. My concern would be then that because when you are composting, I'll cover this all tomorrow, you need to have a really high amount of dry matter in comparison to wet matter. So if you're adding a lot more water, you really need to dramatically increase the amount of dry stuff that you've got around. And that's probably the biggest issue that I find with people's compost bins is they don't have enough of that dry. But yeah, putting water in it would be another way to keep them out.
Okay. So do you have like a list of what can go in, what can't go in?
Yep, it's all on Banish, banish.com.au. Lots about composting there, but my biggest thing as well with composting is if you're just starting out is treat it like a science experiment. Treat it like a bit of fun. Have a go. I kind of throw different things into my bin to see what can and can't break down. I pop the compostable coffee cups in and 6 months later they still haven't broken down, but it's all a bit of fun. My biggest thing as well, another thing would be to remember to take off your fruit stickers when you start composting because they pop up everywhere. Yes?
With share waste, is there
No, that's fine. I know the founders, so it's fine.
Is there a way to get like the end compost products if you have a garden or something like that?
Yeah, so it just depends on who your host is. For me, for example, because we've got a worm farm, I'm more than happy to give my worm juice to everybody and anybody. So you just need to chat individually with the person who you're going to and chat with them. But yeah, some people on ShareWaste will accept different things. They might have chickens, so they'll accept different pieces to other people. So yeah, just sign up. It's just really have a look around on the map to see who's close by to you. Great.
These two puppies, one's got a bit of an astroturf fixation and was having his back scratched.
No.
Tell us about the recycled bottles and astroturf. Do you know much about that?
No, I don't. Oh, really? Would you like to?
So event hire services have recycled astroturf, so they use PET bottles rather than them going to landfill. They create things like astroturf. So I just thought
Amazing.
it's got nothing to do with anything either. And the question I have is, Alex, we do weekly events here. How do we reduce waste from a catering perspective? Obviously, we have bins full of cups and napkins, and we do use china and glass where we can. But is there a way of reducing waste from a catering perspective?
Yes, I think you're right. The first thing would be to reduce your amount of reusables, to increase, the amount of reusables where you can. And it would be to look at your disposal streams to start with as well, to see if you could be composting your food scraps, for example, would be another really big one, because I know there's a lot of wastage that comes from events. So if you could be getting rid of that properly, would be a really big thing to focus on. And it would also probably be, just from an environmental perspective, not a waste perspective, would be offering more vegetarian and vegan options. It's another really easy way to do better in terms of the environment.
We do have a 16 plant-based menu, so
That's great.
plant-based, so that is quite a good strong point of chunk. And we give all of our waste to chickens.
Great.
The lady who comes every few days and picks up all the buckets of scraps, she takes it and gives it to her chickens. But yeah, other than that, I think at events we definitely need to look at food wastage. You guys always have cheese left over, don't you, for lunch? That's not wasted. With Oz Harvest, actually, we donate to them. So yeah, they're brilliant as well, Oz Harvest. Just sit down.
And it's really hard with catering as well because of RSVPs. And you never know how many people are going to show up, or you don't know how many people are going to be really hungry or not or whatever. So yeah, that would be another thing which would be very difficult.
Your friend is YWaste. Do you want to tell us a little bit about these services?
Yeah, so YWaste is a different service to ShareWaste. And what YWaste does is it's an app, and it actually connects you with cafes and restaurants or whatever in the area that at the end of the day they might have a couple of sandwiches, for example, which are perfectly good to eat, but they need to get rid of them because nobody's going to come in. They've maybe have got an hour left of service. So you can download the YWaste app, and that vendor will actually put on the app saying, I've got 3 chicken sandwiches left, I'll give you them for $2 each, or something like that. So that's another really great app. There's another one called Bring Me Home, which does a similar service. So that's also a good one to look at. And YWaste, I think, have actually just brought flowers and florists on. So you can actually get the flowers, as they're not looking absolutely perfect, but they're still looking great. You can, download that app as well. I'm trying to think about what other apps I would download. Another one would be the Recycle Mate app. What that does is it's in its infancy, so it is getting better, but you can actually scan the barcode on a lot of normal household items, and it'll tell you how to dispose of that item correctly, how to recycle it and what have you. And then the other one, I don't know what other ones I would recommend. Need to look at my phone.
We've got Damon speaking at 11 o'clock. He talks basically about regeneration rather than the planet's going to hell in a handbasket. It's all about what we can do to change the future. How do you feel the future looks?
I think it's really positive. I think it's really exciting. I'm not sure how many of you watched his film 2040, but I think it was a really good example. It highlighted some amazing initiatives and some amazing positive work that is happening when it comes to sustainability. It was kind of talking about the solar grid, for example, in India, and how they're now these tiny huts in the middle of the slums are kind of selling back their solar onto the grid, and they're making money. So it's all of these little amazing stories. I think it was a really good example of how there is amazing things out there. There is amazing things happening. It's not covered enough in the Australian media. I think that's one of the biggest things, is it needs to be spoken about more. We need to have that feel-good, happy news without kind of making people think that we don't need to make a change. Everybody needs to make a change, but I think it is really about that regeneration. And I think in a lot of the stories, it comes back to new technology, but also old technology. It's about going back to what we used to do. It's about lighting a candle at night instead of turning every light on in the house. It's about having people over for dinner and sending them home with a doggy bag filled with the rest of the leftovers. It's little things like that. I think there was a funny article I read the other day which said the Italian nonnas are the most sustainable people in Australia. And it's kind of talking about them using a plastic yogurt container for all of these different storage uses, or for them washing everything out. It was them saving the oil at the bottom of their cooking and then repurposing it and reusing it over and over again. It's about being frugal, but not in the sense of saving money and anything like that. It's about being frugal as in not consuming to excess. It's about consuming what you need without going completely over the top. And I think that can apply in every facet of your life, from kind of fashion to kitchens to when you're out and about. I think it's a really important thing to remember. I get this question quite a lot, and unfortunately at the moment I don't have a good answer for you. There are a lot of paint drop-offs that are happening with local council areas, but they do kind of your tins. Your paint back is another great one. They do a lot of big tins, but do they take the small tubes? And oh, that's great. So paint back will take your small tubes as well. So they're a great service.
Just tell us about your business while you're there.
Oh, thank you. So I take different items, cardboard, and I incorporate it into my pictures. So that's what I'm doing here today.
Okay, so you can explain that very well. So what Des does is artist therapy. So it's a matter of, sustainability isn't just about the environment, it's also about our mental health, living a more sustainable life. So what Des does is she works with people who've come from human trafficking, but also people who've come from sexual abuse situations, and art is a way to express and obviously deal with some of the stresses of life, and we are in a position of stress. In COVID at the moment, post-COVID, there is concern, as you can see today. Once we have a COVID scare, people go into hiding, and we're living in unusual times. So I'd highly recommend that you coming and having a chat to Des, and we all need a little bit less stress in our lives. But Des is asking the question from a painting perspective. She uses different implements like trowels or tools of trade to create art. It's not just about the brush. So from a painting perspective, from a recycling, she's using excess paint, but also different implements to create something. And from a generational perspective, I think about my mother, and we laugh because my mother grew up in the war in the UK and in Wales, and you didn't throw a pair of shoes out without taking the laces out. Everything was reused. You didn't have the opportunity to have such a disposable life. So how do we, nowadays I look at my son and he'll wear a pair of runners for a season, then they get tossed because we've got a new something is more on trend, or it's a more disposable life. How do we teach generationally the next generation to reduce some of that lifestyle?
I think they're already doing that. I think if you look at the children of today, they're the most switched on generation. They're the ones that are telling their parents how to recycle better. They're questioning all of their purchasing power. I think kids are being brought up and it's so black and white for them. They see what's happening to the environment and they see that plastic is ending up in sperm whales, and then they see their mum using a plastic bag at Woolworths and they go, why would you do that? For them it's just so simple and so easy. And I think, well, not easy, but it just makes so much sense to them. So I think that's already happening with kids. I think they're doing amazing things. And I think we're seeing that as well in Gen Z, and they're really, really pushing for it. So a recent study just came out that said that 9 out of 10 people now consciously shop more sustainably, which is a great and amazing statistic. And 86% of people wanted to see more transparency from brands around where their products were made, what they were made of, and who made their products. So I think it is happening. Those questions are being asked, and it is changing, and brands are adapting to that as well.
It's fantastic. So, look, Lottie, oh, go John, one more.
Yeah, so at the moment, the program's still in its infancy, so we haven't worked out exactly logistically how it will work with schools and other businesses and things like that. I do a lot of waste education workshops for schools and local councils and businesses and everything like that. So if you know of anybody who wants one of my services, then just let me know.
One more, please.
Yes? Yep, so there's a blog post on the website, which is, I think it's like 7 or 8 apps you should download or something like that. Great.
So it's the beginning of a relationship with Lottie and Banish. It's not the end of her session, but she's doing another session at 10:30 upstairs to help you, to assist to...
Steps to plastic-free life.
There we go. But she's also here to sell some of her product range. A lovely opportunity for you to start using products that she's helping to assist with the environment. So please put your hands together for Lottie. Thank you so much. It's lovely.